Hi YouTube, this is OsoX for ZeroZeroX.com, on YouTube at ZeroZeroXVids, and on Instagram at Quantic Films. The song you're listening to right now is El Camino 5.1 from my album Escape by yours truly, OsoX. On today's video we'll be watching part 2, this is part 2 of the 2020 Dream Computer 3.0 Plus computer setup. To be more specific, we'll be building the second system on this video series, which is the system we're looking at right now, the system on the right, the SENTRY 3.2 computer. Now, we'll show you different sections of this video in the description below. We'll put the timestamps for them. First is the intro that you're watching right now. Second is the parts, all the parts that went into the SENTRY 3.2 computer. And then we'll have a speed build, the system build speed up, so you can watch it and listen to the commentary of how the parts go together and how to build the SENTRY 2.2 computer. And at the end of the video we'll have a sizzle reel showing you the computer, how it works, how it functions, when it's all assembled, not only on the table but also on the computer setup like you see here. Right, there's also a part 2 of this video coming up. Don't forget to check that out. That will be a benchmarking of the computer and a day reel of the computer setup, the whole Dream Computer 3.0 Plus computer setup. SENTRY 3.2 computer that you can see here. It features 2 video cards by NVIDIA and PNY, an AMD 3700X 8-core processor by AMD. It's an AMD Ryzen 7, 16 gigabytes of 3600 memory, and much more. So let's get started. These are the 2 systems we are building in this series of videos. The first system, remember, it was a Ryzen 5 and P450 Aorus Elite, PCI card, etc. Now let's look at the parts for the second build that we're doing here. First, we'll be using the Roswell Prism S white case with pre-installed RGB fans on the right. We'll be using this processor. Is the CPU is an AMD Ryzen 3700X 8-core 16 threads 4.4 GHz processor with the stock RGB Ray Prism LED cooler. The primary graphics video card is an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2060 Super with 8 GB of memory. The secondary graphics card right here is the NVIDIA PNY Quadro P620 for video works, for video production. The motherboard is the Gigabyte X570 Aorus Pro Wi-Fi ATX PCIe 4. Other parts include the motherboard, it's a Gigabyte X570 Aorus Pro Wi-Fi ATX. The memory is G.Skill Trident C RGB series, the 16 gigabytes of dual channel SD RAM running at 3600 MHz. 3600 MHz. The primary storage is a Gigabyte Aorus NVMe Gen 4 M.2 drive. That's 500 gigabytes of that. That's a PCI Express 4.0 interface. And the secondary storage is also a Gigabyte Aorus, but this one is 512 gigabytes of AIC PCIe NVMe SSD memory. The power supply, like you've seen before, is right there in the part, was a power spec 850 watts, A+ Gold ATX fully modular power supply with RGB lighting included. Those are the Wi-Fi RGB Deep Cool MF120 56 CFM 120 millimeters fan kit. I just took out the SSD drive plate that once you take it out you can put 2 exhaust fans in there on the right side of the motherboard, on the chassis, on the case. Also on the top I took out an SSD drive plate where instead I'm gonna put a Bitfinex fan, and I've been taking the cables out of the the header cables that will go to the connections on the case, so I can later connect them to the motherboard. So right now we're going to take out this front panel to install one of the Wi-Fi Gamer Storm fans, as well as stick in there the fan controller that you've seen before, that's squared, that also has RGB on it. Now we're connecting the other two Gamer Storm Wi-Fi fans as exhaust on the right side, and we'll connect them all to the fan controller via USB. So we're going to have lots of fans, lots of airflow in this case, and this is a very interesting case you might want to look into. So this is the Roswell, that's a brand by Newegg, Roswell Prism S. There's also the Prism S Lite that only comes with two fans. Lots of airflow. It has the power supply shroud on the upper side of the case, and the power supply is going to be a PowerSpec 850 watt RGB fully modular power supply that we have here, that we got from microcenter.com. PowerSpec is a brand of Micro Center, and we're going to install it on the upper part of this case with the fan looking down right next to the exhaust RGB fan. Let's just take out the cables we need for this. Only the cables we're going to use on the system, that there's not that too many, because everything is either M.2 or PCI. So we have a few power cables for the motherboard and the graphics card. That's about it. We need we need a SATA cable for one of the fan controllers of the RGB fans that come with the case. Now let's get all the cables we need and let's store the rest on the side. Basically we only need power to the RGB fans, the motherboard, and the video card. And I'm just talking about the GeForce RTX 2060 Super, because the NVIDIA Quadro P620 just takes the power out of the motherboard via the PCI. So let's stick the power supply out there with all the pre-installed cables, the modular cables. Let's screw them in place. You can change the RGB functions of this power supply via a switch on the power supply, on the I/O, or via the internal motherboard header via software, so we can sync it. The processor, the AMD Ryzen 7 3700X, 4.4 GHz. Let's open it. That's the AMD processor that's powering this computer. This is the most powerful and the most advanced computer we ever built in this channel, thanks in part to this processor right here that supports PCIe 4, which is the highest data transfer rate you're going to get for anything. The SSD is compatible with such a standard, which means it's the fastest SSD on the market. It comes with cables, that's the processor itself. It comes with its own LED cooling solution that we're going to use. It goes nicely with the case and the motif of the case. Now, the motherboard is the X570 Aorus Pro Wi-Fi gaming motherboard that has Wi-Fi included. It has RGB lighting, and most important, the feature I was looking for is 3 full PCIe x16 slots with shielding and with reinforced sockets for the video cards and the AIC SSD drive that we have. The different parts for the SSDs, for the M.2s and all that good stuff. Comes with drivers, with the antenna, with the Wi-Fi antenna, with the dual band Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, the manual, and it comes with guide and drivers. We're not going to use those drivers, we're going to install them and download them straight from the net, from the web. Now, let's take out the motherboard, shall we? And there it is. Wi-Fi. It has two M.2 slots with their own heat spreaders with thermal pads on them. We're not going to use their cooling solution because our Aorus M.2 SSD or PCIe 4 SSD drive comes with its own copper shielding and with its own copper heat dissipator. Covers the back and the front of the drive. That's what's going to cool down our PCIe 4 drive for those fast transfer rates. Okay, now let's get the processor. This is the Ryzen 7. Now we gotta remember there's a triangle or an arrow in the processor as well as in the socket, and they gotta match. So we gotta find those and then put it that way. Drop it lightly. See, you see that corner? It has the arrow pointing out. Just find that arrow or that triangle pointed out on the socket as well. Drop it slightly without force. It has to hold in place, and then we push the lever in place to lock it. Now we're going to install the Aorus NVMe PCIe 4 drive by Aorus, 500 gigabytes of that, with the copper shield, with the copper air and the copper heat spreader, the heat dissipation copper solution. Let's check out this one. I'm not going to use those. We're just going to switch places. We gotta put the connection on the M.2 socket like that. We need to put the spacer first. 1 second. And now we connect the drive, and we can screw it with the screws provided by the motherboard in place. 1 second. Let's put that in there. And it's nice and heavy so it doesn't move out of place. Sweet. So we got the primary SSD in place, and it's gonna use that PCIe 4 speeds. Because we're very excited about that. Now it's time to install the memory. The Trident Z, the G.Skill Trident Z RGB, 16 gigabytes of memory with a dual channel. So it's 2 sticks of 8 gigabytes made specially for Ryzen processors, which is going to use the dual channel, and it's going to take advantage of those high speeds, that cut frequency of which is 3600 megahertz. So we gotta install it in 1 and 2, or in some cases it's called 1 and 3, because you gotta skip one. So you put one stick, you skip one of the slots, and then you put the other stick. That's how dual channel works. Keep it in place. The song you're listening to right now is Dropping the Sea from my album Escape again. Now let's check all the headers in the motherboard before we install them in the case. That we have all the USB 3.0, USB 2.0 headers. We have the 12 volts power connection and the CPU power connection. It has 2 CPU power connections. I think that's because it has to use the motherboard has a fan of its own. It needs more power to cool down the motherboard as well, so it needs more power. Now, by accident, we removed these brackets in the motherboard. We're putting them back in there. The CPU cooler socket. So we're gonna install the RAID cooler by AMD. It has thermal paste pre-applied, so we gotta be careful about not peeling that off. And then it has to go connected into those brackets that come pre-installed on the motherboard. It's gonna keep it in place. Let's try that. It's a little bit tricky. You gotta be very careful how to get that. And then you gotta push a lever that's very hard to push right there. That lever. And it feels like it's gonna break at some point, but it never does, never breaks. It's just a lot of pressure that's needed to push that lever and leave the cooler in place. Now we can see the heat pipes on the side as well as the metal that goes into, see that metal that sticks to the plastic brackets? Now the lever, we gotta push that lever with a lot of strength. That lever right there on the right of the cooler. Let's do that, shall we? Right there, and there it goes in place. It has a clicky noise. Let's connect the CPU power cable, the CPU fan power cable, and here is the RGB connection. The CPU, no, that's the CPU fan. The other one is the CPU LED, the RGB power line. Let's use some cable management here. We're gonna hide it on the side, and then we're gonna put the graphics card on top of that cable. So we have the CPU fan and the LED CPU connection for both power and RGB. Alright, so let's see on the back, you can see on the, on the bottom of the case, you can see the filter, the air filter for the intake fans, for the intake RGB fans. Let's put this, and then we're gonna have to remove one of the exhaust RGB fan to install the motherboard, because it's blocking us from the IO shield. We cannot see the IO shield from here. We're gonna have to do that. Now, let's connect all the screws to hold the motherboard in place inside the computer case with the spacers and everything. That's gonna take a while. Okay, so let's tighten up those screws on every corner and in the middle of the board. Let's hold them in place. This is an ATX board. This is a mid ATX case, but it has plenty of space on the right of the motherboard for cooling and stuff. You can even install liquid cooling here. There's enough space for radiators. There's two places where you can install the radiators, 240mm. Will be just fine. And now let's install this fan again, this RGB exhaust fan on the back of the case, once we have the motherboard secured in there. And now it's time to do some cable management in the back to get those cables for the motherboard, the 12 volts power cable from the processor, the modular cables to 12 volts, and on top of that, two other power connections. Motherboard are very difficult to get by the way, here. You have to use a screwdriver to press on those connections. Also remember, a little announcement, I'll be using this computer to make some gaming videos. Most of all will be AAA titles, racing simulators, ray tracing games, and the games nominated and the winners of the Game Awards. I'll be trying those games in the gaming section of this YouTube channel, so don't forget to check that. I'll be using this computer to capture them in 4K and 60 frames per second minimum. They will always there. Check our gaming section, don't forget about that. Those videos are coming soon. Okay, now we're installing the headers, the USB, the on switch headers. I'm not connecting the audio connections up there for the headphones and the microphone because I'm gonna use a USB external sound card for that, and I'm gonna use a USB audio interface as well for music. If I ever need to take audio out of the computer, I use the back side of the IOs on the motherboard, because that's probably is better. But I rather not use the connections on the computer itself, but from the music interface, the audio interface, or the USB sound card will be better. It's better quality. Plus they have gold tips and all that stuff. Now I'm doing some cable management, taking out the cables for a moment out of place, and then connecting as much as I can as far as the fan cables go, power fan cables and RGB fan cables. The song you're listening to right now is the Arcade Bow I.O. made with the PO20 pocket synthesizer, is also another song from my album Escape by yours truly, OsoX. Continue with the cable management. Let's watch. Now we're ready to install the Aorus AIC 512GB SSD, which is a PCIe 4 part. We'll put it on the bottom PCIe 4 x 16 slot. Now we're ready to install the NVIDIA Quadro P620 PNWise video solution. We're using this for encoding video and for 3D rendering when it comes to game design. We also use it to encode NVENC videos for our gaming videos. This is gonna be encoding all those videos for the 4K 60 frames per second gaming section videos. We have some adapters that come with the card, some video adapters, all those display ports, and most important is the card, which has a low profile bracket. Right now we're going to take that out right here on the sides. We're going to take the screws out. I'm going to put the full size bracket to install it on the second to last PCIe x 16 port here. Yeah, right there. It has one cooling fan and it has like 4 display port connections that we're not going to use the display ports on that one. We're going to use the HDMI output on the next video card, the primary video card, which is the GeForce RTX 2060 Super. There, nice that. It's connected, and now it's time to install the NVIDIA RTX 2060 Super Founders Edition that has this mirror-like material on the front. That's how super it is. It has a PCIe connection as well as using the PCIe. Well, it doesn't use the full PCIe 4 experience. It's still a PCIe 3 device, but it uses a full-size X16 or 16 times PCIe port. Also uses 2 slots, and it has all kinds of display connections that are useful, including HDMI and DisplayPort. Screw on the side, and let's cover the I/O with this little cover. Let's connect the PCIe power connector to the graphics card. We're going to have to use the second port on this one, just realize that. And this is a little support bracket that comes with the computer case. The Roswell Prism is to hold the video card, hold some of that weight by the massive video cards that we have nowadays. The GeForce RTX 2060 Super is not that long compared to others, but still we have this device to support it and to keep it in place. This is switch the port. This is the second PCIe switch on this, and then we'll hide the first one behind the computer. I think that's what we're gonna do. Because it doesn't have that clicking noise. It has no click, so it has to be in a specific angle to keep the connection in place all the way. Already? Alright, now we got it. We're almost done here. We need to work on the cable management, and we'll do that on a faster speed, so you can see it, so it's quicker. I'm gonna arrange all these cables behind the computer before putting the cover on. Don't forget, we're gonna have part 3 of this video coming up We already show you part 1, which is the Sentry Plus computer. This is part 2 with the Sentry 3.2 computer. We show you the results further down the video, how the two systems look, and then we have part 3 of this video, which shows the whole Dream Computer 3.0 Plus computer setup and the benchmarks of the 3.2 computer, the Sentry 3.2 computer. You see how fast it is and all that good stuff, with all kinds of benchmarks, gaming as well as others. Now let's put the ZeroZeroXVids sticker and put the tempered glass cover on it. It has a few stickers on them. I see it being very elegant, and I like this case really well. It's very modern. There it is. The only thing we're missing is the Wi-Fi antenna for the X560 Pro Wi-Fi. Let's do that, shall we? Let's install the included antenna for the dual channel Wi-Fi and Bluetooth of the X570 Pro Wi-Fi motherboard. It has two connections on the back of the motherboard on the upper side. And there you have it, the Sentry 3.2 computer on the year 2020, part of the new 2020 Dream Computer 3.0 Plus computer setup. Check the internals, shall we? On slow motion. This is going to start the sizzle. We will show you all the parts once they're on, as well as the final assemble parts of this computer, the final product. Let's watch and listen. You're listening to Drop in the Sea, another song from my album Escape. Next we'll check both systems as finished builds. Most of the parts are RGB. That includes the video card, the case fans, the premium additional GamerStorm fans, the CPU cooler, the RAM, the G-Skill RAM, and the power supply is also LED RGB, including the motherboard. The motherboard is RGB fan. You can see the I/O connections on the back of it. The motherboard itself is an RGB component. That's the Wi-Fi antenna by Aorus. Aorus being a brand of Gigabyte, the premium brand. Here you see different switches on the power supply. The I/O, USB 3.0, USB 3.0 generation 2, power connections, Ethernet, all of that good stuff from the part of motherboard. And then you see the NVIDIA video card and the NVIDIA P620 PNY graphics card as well. That's the I/O on the case, the on switch, and the RGB switch, as well as two USB 3.0 or 3.1 rather. This is the exhaust grill. These exhaust fans are connected to these cutouts, and you see on the right side the Sentry 3.2 computer, which we built today on this video, as well as the Sentry Plus on the left side, which we built on the first part of this video. You can also watch that video on our YouTube channel, and on the description below I'll leave the link for that. Let's see how they turn out. Sentry Plus on the left side, Sentry 2.2 on the right side, both part of the Dream Computer 3.0 computer video series. We also have the Sentry 3 computer built farther down the road. Let's turn on the power supply on both of these. You can also check the Sentry 3 if you go to the playlist, to the Dream Computer playlist. Now let's turn them on. First, the Sentry Plus computer, which has the LED fans. Those fans do switch colors if you want, they change colors. And then the Sentry 3.2, and voila, that's how it looks with the components on. And then the RAM just went on, as well as the NVIDIA video card. You can cycle those RGB fans, the case fans, with a switch, with a little button on the case itself. Let's check that out, shall we? And you can control the RGB fans on the Sentry Plus via software inside Windows or the BIOS. Let's check those color switch. Will show you the computer installing the computer setup as well. Nice shots. And all the parts of these computers, every single part of the SENTRY 3.2 computer will be in the description below next to their affiliate link where you can get the best prices in Amazon. On Amazon, you can click on there and it will get you to the best price we could find online. You can get all those parts and the list of all the parts and how to build this computer by watching this video. All of that list is going to be in the description below, as well as the playlist, the SENTRY 3.2, the SENTRY Plus, and the SENTRY 3 computers built in the Dream Computer 3.0 Plus computer setup series of videos. There's playlists for everything. Gaming playlist, Dream Computer playlist, music playlist, and gaming, of course, the gaming videos playlist is there. This is the SENTRY Plus computer for comparison. It doesn't have that much RGB or that many lights. It's mostly as for working with music, with audio production. It's not a gaming machine, although it has a lot of horsepower for gaming, especially the processors, the Ryzen 5, the 2600X processor and 16 GB of RAM. Now let's check the SENTRY 3.2 computer, shall we? Let's go much in detail with the SENTRY 3.2. You see the AMD Raid cooler with the RGB LED lights. That's pretty cool. It's probably the coolest stock cooler ever made. You see the P620, the AIC Aorus SSD drive. The fan controller has RGB on it, and the 3 fans by Deepcool, which are the Gamer's Thumb division, exhaust fan, and then you can see the power supply with the green RGB light on there. That's a really cool looking computer. So one is for audio production, and the other one is for video editing, gaming, game capture, and also audio production. But main purpose is media. It has an additional video card, the 3.2. It has the NVIDIA P620 by PNY to capture video, to accelerate video, and to encode via hardware NVENC for gaming. We're gonna do that with OBS, with the RTX 2060 and the Quadro P620 working together to achieve such a thing. The P620 also works for rendering the NVIDIA physics engine. It helps us with the physics engine, so the frame rates are even faster, higher. You'll be gaming 4K at frames, like 400 frames per second, no problem. These cards are really capable. And this is the Computer 3.0 Plus computer setup. You can see everything because it's a nice shot, but on part 3 we'll have daylight sizzle reels of the computer setup, as well as benchmarks of the SENTRY 3.2 computer. So we have all those benchmarks, gaming benchmarks, synthetic benchmarks, Cinebench, we'll have Heaven, we'll have all those good stuff. We have Blender benchmarks to see what the performance of this computer is. Don't forget to check those out. Don't forget to check part 3 of this video, benchmarks and sizzle reel. Don't forget to check our gaming section. Don't forget to check the Dream Computer 3.0 Plus computer setup playlist section on the ZeroZeroXVids YouTube channel. Don't forget to check our music. Or I have one cover of Let It Be, and most of the others are original music. The others are all original music with original music videos on the music section. You can see here the different components of the computer setup. I won't go in detail about the computer setup, but I will explain that on the next video. Don't forget to check the electric motorcycle section. I have an electric motorcycle section and a playlist on the channel as well. I'll leave all the links in the description below, but don't forget to check those and let me know what you think. Comment. We have 4 giveaways running right now. Don't forget to sign up for our Aorus ATC 700 Extreme Air Cooler. I'm giving away an air cooler. Comment, let us know that you want to win. We have two AMD giveaways, AMD processor, 8-core processor, and a Radeon graphics card giveaway as well as Samsung Bluetooth earbuds. Don't forget to check those out and comment, like, and subscribe. Once you subscribe and comment, you enter the giveaway. Here's nice shots of the computer setup. Keep watching. The song you're listening to is Drop in the Sea from my album Escape by OsoX. You can check those music videos on the music video section, in the music section of our YouTube channel as well. Alright, thank you for watching. As always, this is OsoX for ZeroZeroX.com. Thank you and peace.